There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no. Which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go. And we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign. Good morning, good morning. What's going on?
Oh, sorry about that. I'm gonna take the banner down. You'd think we know how to do this by now, but we're always making mistakes. Anyway, thank you everybody.
We got a couple buttons on a screen we have to click. Sometimes they go off, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a lag on things, and you're like, go, it's go time. So thank you for being with us this morning and putting up with our bullshit as usual. So welcome to the show. This is Social Contract on Revolutionary Blackout Network, and we are so happy that you could join us today for another Tuesday morning, afternoon, depending on where you are, of what's going on in the world and how it concerns you. So we have another packed episode for you of what's going on in the world right now, and we haven't talked very much about what's going on in Palestine lately. It's not because we have lost interest or moved on to other things. It's just that, when everything's the same, it just keeps getting worse, but there's no movement one way or the other or any real changes. There's not a lot for us to really say.
Like no big major things. We're all kind of waiting on or we're watching the aid trickle in, and we're waiting to see whether the ground invasion of Rafah, like full scale, goes on, because even though they haven't like started the big operation that Israel says they want to do, there's still the thing now is every day there's, oh, we're gonna do a food drop at this place, everybody shows up for the food, and then they bomb them. And that's happened, like, there's been like what, 5 or 6 of those?
Flower massacre over and over and over
just
again.
The next day they did another one, and the next day they did another one, and another.
Yeah,
we have a flower massacre every day.
Saying that over and over again without sounding like a broken record. I think what the headline is here is keep paying attention. If you can go to protest safely, go to protest. Interrupt politicians' public speeches. Chase them down in grocery stores. Let them have it. Really, let them have it. Don't put yourself in danger, of course, but don't forget as well. And we just wanted to let you all know that we're not, we don't have that short of a memory. We're paying attention to what's going on. Just there's just not a whole lot of info to share that you haven't already heard or aren't already seeing. It's
hopefully
terrible.
We got a ceasefire deal we can tell you all about real soon. An actual one, but
right, yeah. And there are some other countries talking about mobilizing aid, but nothing's really come to pass yet. So, and then we talked about, I think the last big thing we talked about is that now they're starting to organize and sell the acquisition of land to Americans, like anybody who wants it, and it's acting like it's just this open big thing that could be done. So that's where we are right now. So we're going to cover a couple other topics today. We will touch base with that until we have something more concrete that we can share with you. But on that note, I kind of have this situation where it's like there's so much horrible shit going on all the time. I physically don't have the bandwidth to keep it in my head all at the same time going on. And I think that it's probably not a big coincidence that there was, a dust up in Haiti, because then the news can jump all over that and be like, don't pay attention to Palestine. Look, Haiti's all messed up again. You know how Haiti does. Guess what this time? Cannibals.
Man,
So
we should be doing
I don't know
stories
what's
on the
going on.
Congo.
Well, I'm gonna lean on Jared for this one because he's done some research on this about what's going on. So I'm gonna be enlightened with the rest of you about exactly what I know and how the parts go together, and hear about this, because this is here's another mess, another fine mess that I'm sure in some way are behind. So
If we did a show like 3 or 5 times a week, we might have almost enough time to give enough of these important topics as much time as they deserve. We should be talking about the Congo right now. There's so many humanitarian disasters occurring around the world right now. It's like which ones are, I don't know, geopolitically the most significant, but even picking that, it's like uh, I do want to bring up Haiti, though, for basically that reason. It's another one of these things that's going on because they all have the same source. That's kind of what, it's not that we don't care one to the other, but if we break off the source of one of them, you've kind of solved a lot of them. Like the same geopolitical machinations that cause and require the Palestinian conflict to continue forever. This like trying to put basically a NATO West colony just directly on top of a bunch of people who already lived there, and then kind of enforcing that to keep everybody in the world on edge for the last like 60 years. Well, there's like, another example.
You pull the curtain back, you end up with the domino effect. Like, who's behind this? The weapons manufacturers, generally the Western, America and Britain and everything, still trying to conquest and make money off of human suffering. So one begets another, begets another, begets another. There's a big conflict going on in the Congo as well, and it's all connected into this. And again, that's something that's just kind of it's just so much to take in. So we know how you feel, and we feel terrible for the people that are actually involved in this. But please, Mr. Jared, enlighten me and us.
If we time machined back like 200 years, we'd be having the same conversation, but it'd be about like, oh, one of our slave colonies is in rebellion again. We really should end this institution known as chattel slavery. And then everybody like, shut up, that's... All right. But anyway.
No!
We're talking about Haiti. Haiti, as there's been crises, you'll kind of hear about Haiti every once in a while for the last few years, which has been going on for the last few decades. To the very beginning of all this, Haiti is one of the places that threw off slavery through open slave revolt. It is one half of an island with, I'm pretty sure, the Dominican Republic. Haiti's like the left half of it. And then, so when you do like economic comparisons, it's a weird situation where you can kind of do some direct ones where it's like, look, this isn't two different countries on different sides of the world. This is literally the same island that has two different histories, and we see how they are each treated differently. While the Dominican Republic, like, we know them mostly for, I hear about them whenever baseball season comes up, because we farm a lot of extremely good baseball players from the Dominican Republic. A lot of poor,
desperate people. It's kind of like a tourist destination more so.
I'm sure there's cruises.
Don't go over on the other side of the island. Let's stay here and do tourism.
Like the cruise ships go to one side of the island. Dominican Republic is fully within the Western sphere of influence. They never had their slave revolt. France and them kept. That's why they all speak French in Haiti. It was French people running the slaves. France never really lost its grip on that, and they just kind of slowly segued into the modern world, as opposed to Haiti, who has been forever punished by the Western world for having that slave revolt. They're still not over that. They're at the time the Western world, so I guess England and the U.S. and France, they gave Haiti a bill for themselves. Here's how much you cost us, and you have to pay us that back. And yes, they enforced that. I don't remember if they are still enforcing that or not, but up till very recently, they're still well, hey, you owe us for breaking your chains. Didn't you consider how much of a financial investment that was for us?
It hurt our feelings pretty bad, guys. We don't really love that.
So all that has had all of its logical progressions. Extreme, intense oppression, suppression of Haiti and the Haitian people. It's really hard for them to get anything going because they're sabotaged at every step. Let's talk about the most recent thing. We're doing a collapse, and I have no certainties because this is an active conflict. Things are happening in real time. Things are moving. What I'm trying to point out are patterns of how this seems to go down a very similar way everywhere once it gets going, no matter where it is in the world. And that leads me to lean in certain directions on this narrative. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The wide road that passes in front of... Oh, I didn't stick the thing up. Bam! The wide road that passes in front of Haiti's... I get to do French in this one. Toussaint Louverture International Airport has a post-apocalyptic stillness these days. Where cars and crowds of people once massed, only tendrils of smoke rise from the smoldering piles of trash, sending a bitter taste into the air. An armored police vehicle hulks nearby. The few police officers on watch cover their faces with balaclavas. The street looks nearly abandoned, as if in the wake of a disaster, an experience that people in Port-au-Prince know better than most. But leaving the city isn't an option this time. The airport, under siege by gangs, has been forced to close. Since the start of the month, criminal groups have been attacking with unprecedented coordination the last remnants of the Haitian state. The airport, police stations, government buildings, the national penitentiary. The culmination of years of growing gang control and popular unrest. Their joint assault forced Prime Minister Ariel Henry to resign last week, a stunning capitulation that has nevertheless proven futile in restoring calm. Port-au-Prince's gangs are still choking off the supply of food, fuel, and water across the city. Perhaps the last functional part of the state, Haiti's national police, continue to fight, battling to reclaim ground block by block across the city. But the very life of the city they are fighting for seems to be waning, as intensive urban warfare grinds down on basic human ties. The social fabric is fraying as businesses and schools stay shuttered. Many residents self-isolate, afraid to leave their homes. Some have turned to vigilantism, fear, mistrust, and anger reign. Death is on everyone's mind. One more paragraph of this, and then we'll talk for a bit. Vigilante justice approved by the police. In the Port-au-Prince neighborhood of Canapé Vert on Monday, the no vert means green. That's it. Crowds seized a man they accused of belonging to a nearby gang, forcing him to walk down the road toward a cemetery before killing him and setting his body on fire in the street. Sources in the community told CNN. I try hard not to watch the videos that are going to traumatize me because I've seen them all. I've seen people get shot. I don't really need to see it again. I can read a description and still get as outraged as I need to be and understand the facts in the way that I need to understand them. I've seen the same clip of like somebody on fire and somebody like pulling a human leg out and like biting the leg. That's where like the cannibalism. That's why you're gonna hear cannibalism a lot around this story. Videos seen by CNN showed remains. Oh, here we are. Remains smoking on the pavement in front of a shuttered supermarket, adding to a stretch of thick black soot. They're definitely burning people, but whether or not everyone's being eaten, I think, is up to debate. At this corner, the indelible mark of extrajudicial executions is all that remains of hundreds of suspected criminals killed by residents, their bodies disposed of by flame, according to a local security source. Gangs have long haunted the residents of Port-au-Prince, but their reach has dramatically expanded over the recent years, covering 80% of the city today, according to UN estimates. Seeing their city shrinking, many Haitians in this region and beyond have organized among themselves in a vigilante movement known as Bois Calais. The anti-gang movement has seen communities from neighborhood defense committees with shared fortifications, surveillance systems, checkpoints, and even patrols. Their solidarity is effective. In 2023, for example, several areas of the city's hilly residential areas joined forces with local police to push back the T Macaque gang, ultimately expelling it from the area entirely, according to local sources and a February 2024 report by the Swiss-based Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. What would that be? EATOC, if you want an acronym. But the line between defense and mob justice is easily crossed. Vigilante groups have also lynched hundreds of people suspected of gang membership or common crimes, according to an October 2023 UN report. Speaking to CNN in a car-filled lot next to a church, whose open doors revealed a wedding in progress, one militia member told CNN that his group had repelled repeated gang attempts to seize Canapé Vert. This is the way, this is a quote, "This is the way the gangs operate. They take over areas with big businesses and force them to pay them while they remain in control," he said, noting that the area contains several high-profile businesses, including 2 national cellular companies and a major hotel. He spoke to CNN on condition of anonymity out of concerns for his safety. "We constantly receive threats. They say we will come back. They say they will come and attack us, destroy our neighborhood. So we block the streets, and the police do the searches. No civilians are involved in searching cars," he said. "The militia is armed only with machetes and our bare hands," he said. So, again, these facts, I'm going to get a lot of stuff wrong which is why I'm not going to be making too many like certain authoritative claims. I have no idea what the heck is going on, and watching stories go down for the last few years, all that I know is to be suspicious of everything that I hear. The narrative I've heard that is convincing to me, at least so far, is that there have been like proven continued attempts to keep Haiti destabilized, to keep Haiti in a state of chaos, so they can never get together and actually start making a country and progress and get some industry and live normal lives like every country in the world should be able to do, to assert their sovereignty. So I've heard of, like, you'll hear, oh, the local Haitians are teaming up with the police. And being an American, I'm like, teaming up with the police? Uh-oh, that is a red flag. That seems like a bad thing. Well, in this particular case, if I'm remembering correctly and understand things correctly, the machete-wielding militias, the people who are just like, we're sick of this crap, and because they don't have quite as many guns floating around as the United States, they're going to get their machete. They're handing out to each other, like, here, this is our community protection plan. Here is your machete. The cops are doing the best they can, and they're on your side in this case. And they're fighting off what I have heard described as CIA-backed gangs. Which sounds like I've tinfoil hatting right away. But have we not been doing this shit for 100, 200 years? As an empire? That's our normal shit, right? We move into your country.
The language that they use that you were quoting in this article sounds very, very suspiciously connected to when you would read something about, oh, the citizens of Palestine are fighting against Hamas. It's like word for word. Like, you could literally pull out the location, in this article, and put in locations of like Rafah in different areas, and then Gaza, and say, oh no, that's what's happening here, and it would sound exactly the same. It's like they write from a template. It's like so that's another reason you can't trust what you're hearing, because obviously they're not, you can't trust the mainstream media, but we're not seeing the volume of filming from the ground what's going on from all sides situation as you are seeing in Palestine. So this is
not as much video. I just got that clip of that leg.
Somebody's
leg on fire.
That's such an incendiary. Well, pardon the pun, incendiary. But it's such an attention grabber. I'll say it that way. That's going to grab people's attention, right? Because when the mainstream media thrives on the disaster porn and the violence porn that they put out there to get your attention and make sure that you're like, oh God, who would do this? They're obviously the bad guy. When we have politically no idea what's going on, we don't know who's in control. My understanding of Haiti is that their government is the gangs. They distribute any kind of anything going on. Yeah. But again, then if they're CIA backed, which they very may well be, it's such a confusing situation. That's why it's just sort of like in my head. Like, I don't know what I don't know.
The MO of our intelligence community has been, at least, again, this is just historically what has happened. This could be, there's a whole lot of quote leftists who are making a big deal out of, oh, the CIA doesn't do that anymore. I keep hearing that. It's like, oh, it's not the 80s. It's not the 90s. It's not the 2000s. It's not 2011. It's like, well, when did they stop exactly? Because every year, as the confidentiality times expire, you hear about a new set of nonsense that they've been doing. Their MO is they move into a place, they find the most radical, craziest people, funnel money to them so they can keep going and growing and find other crazy people until eventually you have a wing of psychos trying to take over, to create destabilization. That's what they did with
look like they're tearing themselves apart. Yeah. Why are you tearing up your own shit? What's the matter with you?
Look, it's the Haitians themselves who are
right. It's like, we're not involved with this. Now, we got an interesting comment from RU Time Traveler too that said they are claiming this to keep their frightening narrative that Black people are animals, just like the history of the area being heathen people, and that's not entirely incorrect, because they kind of, that's something that you can always hit the racist hot button right there, these animals, and then they who also are primarily people of color. It's like you look at them and it's like your lizard brain kind of just makes these equations when you live, in America where racism is so prevalent, that they know that they can appeal to these people who are not seeing past, seeing in the, who might be funneling money into this, who might be benefiting from this, who is actually in charge. Are the machete people in charge?
Yeah.
Do we want the machete people in charge?
Who?
So it's like, I need somebody to root for, like that. Then
As
they
a
know
communist, as a socialist, as a communist, I am looking for whoever is expressing or capturing the will of the Haitian people, because at their core, I don't believe that any group of people, it just like, you know what we want? We just want to eat each other. That's all
Yeah,
we
we
just,
love
that's what our
getting macheted
movement,
to death. That's our favorite.
the people, capital P, the people, like are basically like they're rarely wrong unless they're being heavily manipulated. The people of Haiti want the same thing that we want: housing, health care, like to live in a normal sovereign country where they get to have normal lives and don't have to do this whole like, oh, we're being exploded by this thing this year. Like, well, we had this earthquake we still haven't recovered from. Oh, we don't have water. Oh, we don't have food. Like all this nonsense. A lot of very good comments in our chat today where they're saying that if the issues in Haiti weren't 100% political, because people will be like, oh, it's various other hardships. It's like Dominican Republic would be in the exact same condition as Haiti. It's just one gets nicer treatment by like the World Economic Fund and all the like the empire. The empire likes them more because they can use it kind of like a vacation home. It's where you get your carnival cruises. You got a baseball farm team, like the whole country is basically a giant baseball farm team for our big industries. Haiti would look exactly like the Dominican Republic if it wasn't just political nonsense keeping them back. And who loves to fuel political nonsense? USA, baby, the ruling class of the Western imperial elites.
Yeah, well, there's so much money in destabilization. It's not just that we're like, oh, well, the war contractors and the weapons manufacturers and all this. Of course, they're benefiting, and of course, the politicians that are funneling this and allowing this to go to pass, those people are benefiting in various corporations. But there's also money in just keeping regions destabilized. And you can also use it as a scapegoat, just like this. It's like, oh, hey, look over here, look at Haiti. Don't think about the 8th or 9th flower massacre that's taken part or happened in Palestine. So you can always just flare things up somewhere else in the world and say, look over there. So it's a smokescreen. At the expense of people's lives in very horrible death condition situations. So it's but then
I have a second part of this. Like this article was from like a couple days ago. It's from like this week. Where are we at? Yeah, March 18th. So just this Monday. I have another article from 2016, also talking about Haiti and its history. It's always great because you can go back and find articles that are talking about like, oh, why is this happening? And then you look, oh no, that same newspaper knows why it's happening. They reported on it years earlier. Kind of like with Ukraine. If you just go back to 2016, you have articles, the most corrupt country in Europe. This country is run by Nazis. Holy shit, there's a ton of Nazis in Ukraine running everything right now. Their military sure is Nazis. And then suddenly it hits 2020 or whatever, and it's like, oh, our favorite, bestest country.
Yeah, the
Christian
heroes.
Ukraine.
Look at all the heroes. Yeah, it's exactly right. The narrative.
Zelensky's Jewish. You can't possibly. All right.
Right.
But we have to transition to that 2016 thing. We have an alert here for a based MAGA take. I found this on Twitter, and it's like they're like grasp it. It's like last week we were talking about stumbling into the right thing for the wrong reasons. I don't even know if these are the right. I think these actually are the right reasons. What's this guy say? So I know nothing about this person. Oh yeah, the guy in this little video clip you're gonna see down there. He's supposedly the head cannibal demon man who is the worst guy. He's the supervillain of this story, I guess. I know nothing about this person, but knee-jerk reaction was squash him like a bug. I know the media is demonizing him and calling him a cannibal. I also know typically when the media does this that it's bullshit. Hey, 40 beheaded babies, right? People getting ripped out of incubators. Frickin' a million rapes or whatever on October 7th. All turned out to be nonsense, made up, manufactured horseshit. Yep. Haiti has been destroyed by the Clinton Foundation, is known to be a sex trafficking hub, and has been in abject poverty for decades. This guy's talking like a commie over here. So my question is this. Is this guy the evil bastard they say, or is he a guy trying to remove a corrupt government from his country? That's a serious question because I honestly do not know. And I'm kind of there also. I honestly do not know. But I look at the patterns and I'm also seeing this. Like, man, every time a movement runs out and they're like, the first thing you hear about them, 40 beheaded babies. You're like, okay, so this is bullshit. Let's they're giving them Viagra so they can.
Most people. Most people, it stops there. Like, they don't need to hear anymore. They don't need to hear anything get debunked. They don't need to hear, oh, we lied, or we made that up, or this people another news outlet investigated this independently and found out it was a lie. They just know the headlines. It's not like the mainstream media doesn't know what it's doing. It appeals to the lizard brain in people and just hits them hard, hits them fast, and then they ask no questions. And that's how we end up in this situation. So that's a really excellent point. Like, when the media says something crazy like that, don't take it at its word without maybe looking into some independent sources.
There's also, just to I don't know, continue my layer of what could possibly be a thing, they refer to him as a gang leader. So is it that there are destructive gangs and helpful and they're just throwing them all into the same bucket? Are there actual terrorizing groups? I mean, obviously they exist because it's not like the country is involved in a giant stage play for our benefit. Like, things are going wrong for sure. But who is the bad guy? Who is the good guy? Is it much more complicated than good guy, bad guy in the first place? Let's look at this 2016 article. Because what's it talking about? You might be like, right, goofy right-wing people blame everything on the Clintons. Why won't you get larger? Why do you do this to me, window? Oh my God, seriously. Ha ha ha.
You did it.
I will get there. I have many ways of making you talk. So this is, what is this? This is freaking ABC News. This is Disney News. It's at .go.com. It's Disney. In Haiti, a factory where big money, State Department, and the Clintons meet. So they're going to discuss all the reasons, like as we're going, red flag, all the reasons for why Haiti's been falling apart and can't get back together for some reason. Why? Why can't they get their shit together? And they're just going to list these reasons, but Sam is like, man, it's just so weird. It's so weird that this doesn't work. Why isn't Haiti developing? They treat these things like they're neutral and good. All right. Ooh, Cape Haitien, Haiti. Bill and Hillary Clinton have hailed. I hope there's a French person listening to us, or a Canadian something, that can get some of a kick out of my pronunciations.
They just drive off the road while they're listening. Their ears.
Bill and Hill have hailed the factory churning out Old Navy sweatshirts in an industrial park here as a shining achievement in their efforts to rebuild this island nation after a destructive earthquake in 2010. Man, shouldn't Haiti be sending Old Navy thank yous for allowing them to open a sweatshop in Haiti and pay them far less than they would in America? But the garment factory has underdelivered on projected jobs. Ooh. Haitian workers have accused managers of bullying and sexual harassment. Well, it's an American company. You just got it. This is USA, so freedom works, baby. And an ABC News investigation has found that after opening its factory in the Haitian Industrial Park, built with $400 million of global aid, the Korean firm became a Clinton Foundation donor, and its owner invested in a startup company owned by Hillary Clinton's former chief of staff. What's up? Why is everything going weird in Haiti? We sold it to the Clintons' friends, and it's not going well.
Yeah, how could anybody have foreseen this?
I forgot this line in the next paragraph. This is a quote. This was Building Back Better. It's 2016. This is a 2016 article. They're talking about the BBB. This was Building Back Better, in the words of Bill Clinton, said Jake Johnson. This is after the earthquake, the most recent earthquake. There's a few of them that have happened in Haiti. An analyst with the Center for Economic and Policy Research, a nonpartisan group that has studied the earthquake reconstruction. Haiti was going to stand on its own 2 feet. Certainly, by that standard, it's been a complete failure. 6 years later, it's pretty clear that hasn't happened. Haiti's struggles were made all the more difficult earlier this month by the tragic fallout from Hurricane Matthew. Oh yeah, I forgot they got hit by a giant hurricane in the... I mean, they only had like most of a decade to go fix Haiti, right? Clinton Foundation, they were going to do stuff. Few global humanitarian efforts have been more personal and important to Hill and Bill, by their own estimation, than their attempt to shepherd the revival of the desperately poor island nation, where they long ago spent a delayed honeymoon. Man, never let Bill and Hillary in your fucking country at all. They'll be like, what a nice country. We should buy it.
I think we'll take it. Wrap it up.
Even before the 2010 quake, Bill Clinton was serving as the UN Special Envoy for Haiti. And after the quake... We do not have a deep state, everyone. There is no there's no shadow government that just does shit that they feel like.
It's made up of rich people gallivanting about the world.
It's
Oh my
like
God.
you start the tiniest bit to like scratch at this stuff and it just becomes so obvious so fast. It's like, why is Haiti having problems? Well, there's apparently been an American assigned like executive board to govern Haiti for who even knows how long. Like, could you imagine if the same thing was being framed but about like, I don't know, our response to hurricane, what was the one that hit like the East Coast? Sandy.
Sandy.
Hurricane Sandy. Let's say, well, China we have the Chinese what is it Department for Economic Development in the United States, and they've been doing the best they can. Like, it's just a foregone conclusion that of course America and our corporations have the power to just reach in and just move around this board game that is Haiti or any country, like this giant game of Risk that we're playing where we can just move around anyone else's pieces. And it drives me insane. Sorry, I've been talking for a long time. What do you is your mind
No, I
blown,
think,
Nicolette?
well, I think that this is like obviously like it's exactly what you said. Like you just scratch the surface and it just becomes more corrupt and more corrupt and more corrupt. And that's something we're going to talk about in a little bit, coming into the nationalization conversation. Like you can't trust these fuckers to do anything right because they're always looking out for themselves. They're always going to take off the top first. And I'm not sure that you are going to really get that anytime people are in charge, not get that anytime people are in charge of each other. And I don't have a solution for that, obviously, because well, eventually probably it's going to be like a Skynet situation. We're just going to just get blown up by computers and AI anyway. But this is exactly like how everything in this world works, and everything, and especially inside this country works. We look around and go, why is everything so horrible? And why do we have such garbage internet? And why do we have no health care? And this, that, and the other, when just a few people are benefiting, by taking advantage of even worse off conditions of people by just literally buying their country and getting to have it, not paying, not being not allowed to do that, but being like, here's like the rainbow road, right, to doing whatever you want to whoever you want. And that's sort of always been the historically the MO of the empire. Whichever empire is in charge gets to the point where they're like, it's ours, we'll take it all because we can. And you can go back to that Elon Musk quote. I don't want to, but you can, about we'll coup whoever we want, because that is exactly what's going on at all times everywhere. And it's so hard to keep track of. And that's why at the top of the hour I said I can't understand words when it comes to Haiti right now.
The patterns are applicable all over the place, which is the only reason I talk about this stuff. Because while yes, it's obviously a very different country, very different part of the world, the steps are about the same. This is why reading some theory, read some Lenin, read some Marx. It's all, read Lenin's Imperialism. It's a great start. You can basically skip the first 4 chapters because he just explains the world as it is now as if it's a theoretical possibility. You're like, yeah, that's where I live. Yes, things are like that currently, because he's making these predictions back in the freaking 20s, and he just happened to be right about a lot of stuff. Like, we still study Newton because he was right on a lot of his physics. We still use a lot of Newtonian physics, not because we love Newton and he's our favorite guy who want to jerk off all the time. It's because he was right about, he was a good scientist, and he has yet to be disproven in many ways. Same thing with Lenin and Marx. They were good scientists who have yet to be, like, when some other scientist comes along and adds to, or, oh no, he was right about this but not this, great, that'll be who we study next. In the meantime, there's no reason to keep reinventing the wheel, everybody. There's a way you can understand, like, these structures just become super obvious as soon as you get the scaffolding to start working them out. Like, once you learn a tiny bit about the stock market, it's really easy to criticize the stock market.
And this is the kind of thing that disenfranchises people from voting or wanting to take part in any kind of local or national governmental scenarios. That's why they have to make all these great big campaigns. Like, back in the 90s, they had Rock the Vote because they were trying to get the youth movement involved in voting because nobody gave a fuck. Because, the Generation X was like the most apathetic generation of like all time. So they literally had to make like a huge campain about it to try to get people.
Vote or die, motherfucker. Vote or die.
Right. Vote or die. Yeah. And then there's that. There's vote or die. So this is what they're trying to like brainwash you into taking part into something that you have no agency over whatsoever. I guarantee you, like, the majority of people who were just like regular people, if they knew the situation or even came close to it, they'd be like, yeah, no, I don't want people in Haiti to suffer for no reason. Let's not let the Clintons or their foundation or their friends or the government's friends do that. That doesn't sound great. Or, I don't want what's going on in Palestine to be going on in Palestine so somebody can have the gas and the oil, being us, America. If presented with logical information, most not radical people would be like, yeah, this isn't great. So we know, and they'd also be like, yeah, I would probably like healthcare, and yeah, I would like access to internet, and yeah, I would like to like not live like shit in what's supposed to be the most powerful country in the world or whatever that we're constantly told. But we are not given the agency to control anything in our lives. It's decided for us, and we're kept out of it. So this is what disenfranchises people from wanting to even hear any of this stuff, because it's always bad news. It's always something terrible going on. It's always our doing, America's doing. And this is something you just can't, most people just don't have the capacity with their own lives to just keep hearing over and over and over again that we're just keeping doing this all over the world and to, the citizens. So if there were something better, if there were an alternative, people would be involved in that process. But, it's a guarantee. It's not even really a theory here. I mean, like there's no inspiration for people to want to be involved in this unless you're crazy like Jared and myself, who are just like can't stay out of it. We have to make it our
well, if we were involved in the way they want us to, we would be walking around with like Marianne Williamson and stuff, and I don't even know where we'd be. I guess riding with Biden right now, trying to defeat.
Oh god! Can you even imagine? Like that's so gross.
All right, I got a final thing on this because it goes off exactly what you're talking about. I've heard some communist thinkers that I highly respect were throwing out the idea of it's not even that the U.S. has to go around and start like we don't need to stop negative action and start positive action. It's that we need to just like the revolutionary act would be to leave people the F alone. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, I would love some restorative justice. Like, I would love for us to, instead of being destroying Palestine, to be building Palestine, to helping them become a normal sovereign state, just like what Haiti wants, where they can just live, have normal trade relations with other countries around them, behave in a good neighbor partnership kind of way with everyone around them, the international community and all that. I don't trust the empire to do anything, so I agree. The radical act would be just to stop interference. Even if you just stopped interference, they would build and figure it out. Like, I have trust in the people. We're talking in the chat about El Salvador. We don't necessarily, like, El Salvador is doing all kinds of stuff right now, and I really wish them the best. I hope things work out. The people I trust in El Salvador are the El Salvadorians. The people I trust in Haiti are the Haitians. If we just left Haiti alone, they would eventually figure it out without any kind of help from interference. I should really just refer to it as interference, because a lot of times you see how this, quote, help ends up working out. They don't need that kind of help. Even now, with whatever kind of organization, like people handing out machetes, like they're starting to take their stuff back regardless, under the worst possible conditions, under active suppression. So if you just get out of people's way globally, get out, that's what communism is all about, right? Proletariat, get out of the proletariat's way, they will advance us into the next stage, into socialism.
That's absolutely true. It's just the way that, I mean, on one hand, and at least the American narrative is always like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. American rugged individualism. If you need help, you're a failure. Forget your community. Fuck community. Do yourself. You just your car and your world and your job for yourself and nobody else. Don't talk to your neighbors. Don't invest in any situation. Yet at the same time, they're going out and they're destroying all these blowing up all these different places with all these different situations going on, and it's like, oh no, we can't trust them to do community stuff. We can't. So they're just trying to constantly promote this narrative and push this narrative that they want us to believe, but like, okay, we got to trust our government because they know what they're doing.
It's the NGO international industrial complex, the non-governmental organization industrial complex. Like the Clinton Foundation is an NGO. It's just a way for businesses to be like, we're not a business, haha, while just just maintaining themselves as a
with complete government impunity, like just not like allowed to do whatever you want, because you're a person in a high place, and that makes
we're a charitable organization. You can't possibly do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Clinton Foundation touts its success in deploying over $30 million in relief support. Clinton Foundation dispersed every dollar of that aid and did not take 1 cent in overhead, said the foundation's chairman in a 9-page statement to ABC News. As a philanthropic organization, the Clinton Foundation's work in Haiti has only one goal: to help the people of Haiti. And then in the previous paragraph, you see, in the elite circles in Haiti, the Clintons are held in high regard. Like, it is as easy as the owning class of whatever country sees the owning class of whatever other country. They are happy to shake hands. They get to maintain their class position. They get, like the heading of this, with hundreds living in tents, a luxury hotel. Like, they get to stay in their very nice air-conditioned places while their citizens live in the muck. kind of like here, just on a totally different scale, where their owning class can kind of be just like if they displease them, the Clintons will simply swap them out with something else. But still, they recreate these class dynamics wherever it is. This is your preview of Ukraine, by the way. Is everybody excited for Kiev to get like helped by the Clinton Foundation or whoever the hell it is, by whatever?
Palestine.
Palestine is coming. It's the exact same shit.
Gonna be, that coastline is gonna fill up with resorts faster than you can fucking imagine.
Dubai too, but with McDonald's logos all over it.
Yeah. These places are all gonna be new McDonald's that belong to America.
Well, it'll be whatever whatever Israeli fast food.
Right.
Shawarma Central. Everybody eats shawarma. That's not necessarily a Hebrew thing. Zionist Zootopia. That's
Zionist Utopia. Yeah, because they've been working on that one for a long time, but now I don't really know what inspired so much just time wise. I understand that America's always wanted their natural resources and that the Zionistic world has always wanted that piece of land, but it's been in dispute since 1948. So I'm not sure why year 2023 2024 we have now's the moment, and at the time when it would seem like it would be like the worst time to do it, because this should happen 10, 20, 30 years ago when people couldn't follow it as closely, before social media at least. So, why didn't it happen during Clinton? It's kind of mind-boggling in that way. But I mean, it doesn't matter, because it is happening, and it doesn't matter why it's happening. It's happening.
It all makes sense when you look back. Like, we will look back at this probably, I don't know how long, maybe 10 years now, and it will be like, okay, that move happened, so they had to go do this move and this time clock.
Right.
I was told that, like, I heard something about, like, they were doing, there was some kind of agreement with other countries in the region where they were going to sign a thing with the U.S. that would then, well, with Israel, which is just the U.S., which would like then make like in doing any kind of Palestinian statehood harder in the future. I don't know enough details to talk about it. It could be that, yeah, sure, it's just October 7th just happened, and that's why they suddenly were spurred into it. But I've heard a bunch of people say, no, they knew about October 7th, and they just let it happen.
Yeah, sure. or helped plan it. You never can trust that.
Well, they did literally send suitcases full of money to him, so it wouldn't even be that crazy. You have Netanyahu like giving a Qatari guy a literal suitcase of cash to drive across the border and give it to Hamas. So, like, maybe they did plan it all together. Who effing knows? We can only look at the results.
Then you start getting into the whole kind of Illuminati argument about, like...
The result is what matters. The result of getting us to the NGO industrial complex, we're bulldozing your entire nation and family tree so we can make room for whatever the next market is. Haiti was another market they needed to scramble around so they could sell them KFC and whatever. So we're going to have to do that here. They need iPhones and New Israel or whatever they're going to call it. Or I guess they just still call it Israel.
And who's going to benefit? Is it going to be like us, like the common people? No, we're not going to benefit. No, we're not going to see a single bit of benefit. I guarantee you, if the people thought that like the right thing to do was to mow down the Palestinians because you're going to get a piece of this profit if we do it, then you probably would like tap in again to the lizard brain of people who are like, yes, I'd love profit. And then they end up being like how the corporations and the government entities behave, these NGOs, because money is what is driving all of this. These people can't get enough money. Most of us can barely make ends meet at any given time. And we just wish for just a little bit more. If we just had a little bit more leverage in our lives, we could make our lives better. If we just had a little bit of a break, and we just wish so much we could win the lottery, or someone would die that we know and give us their money, or, just something like this, because we're put into such a negative places while just these very few 1% of people just keep gathering and gathering and gathering the resources. And that is, if you think about like how you would feel if somebody offered you some sort of profit on something, whether it was you had to make the decision, is this moral, or do I want the money? Most people probably, I don't know, it might be probably 50-50, or maybe less about morals than you think. It sounds like a Rick and Morty episode, actually. But my point here is that
they turn to spaghetti when they die.
Oh yeah, I just watched that yesterday. The spaghetti people, I watched that yesterday.
See, look, we watch pop culture. We consume regular cartoons.
Yeah, we're just like you. We're normal people watching crazy cartoons. And I was sitting there the whole time, and it's like, look what they managed to combine into one stupid episode about exploitation and about, I was just going on and on about it. But
trying to create, when us and our friends are just sitting there like, can't they just make normal spaghetti? Like, do they need?
I was thinking that the whole time too. It's like, what's wrong with the regular spaghetti? But I guess it was the convenience of it.
I would love to think that's some like meta text where it's like, yeah, you're supposed to think that. Like, isn't it weird that they never came up with like?
I literally
How
just
limited
found
their
that. It's
thinking
so funny.
became.
And yeah, but that's sort of where we're at. It's like we could sit here all day and go like, why? But we know why. We all know why. You don't need us to tell you why. It's money. It's money and power. And it's never not going to be money and power. And I feel like that's why I get a little nihilist about it, because it's like, how do you go back from this? How do you, other than like literal alien invasion intervention, how do you go back from where we've come to? And you want to
Can't.
blame it all
You
on
have to go.
Reagan, and it
You
is
gotta
all
go
Reagan's
forward.
fault. Yeah,
There is no
right.
back.
We have to go back. It is like
We
you can
can't
blame
go right.
everything.
We can't go left. We must go.
You can blame it all on Reagan, and you should. But the thing of it is like greed existed before him. He just really streamlined it in the situation that we have now, because the domestically people live in terroristic situations because of America's choices and the Western's choices. They're out. NATO, let's say. When I say America, we're at the spearhead of it, but I'm talking also about its branches as well. A lot of mixed metaphors there.
Sound like me.
But if we're going to shift gears here and talk a little about things domestically, where we're constantly going on about things are bad here too, and they shouldn't be, because we're always told things are great here. We've been, if you went to school in the 90s or whatever, or you were in, I'm sure probably before that as well, probably up and still going on. I don't know what it's like in school now. Probably just hell, straight hell. It was then. But the idea of it was like you were always being told, like, you live in the land of opportunity. You are so lucky to be here. People are starving everywhere. Well, it's our goddamn fault for doing that. We were the ones doing that to everybody. So the issue is the second part of our episode we want to talk about, like, why is shit so terrible? Well, this also plays into that, because as you may have heard in our previous episodes, we were talking about, obviously the TikTok ban coming up, when even though that they keep saying that they have it's an uncontrolled app that gives all your data to China instead of America. There's literally no evidence that that's ever even happened. The owners are primarily from Singapore. It's got nothing to do with China. Literally, it's just a red herring, false flag situation.
It's a spin-off company, and it's just funny because we have all of our data collected by our own companies. So it's like, what are you even talking about?
Right? Yeah, they want control of the narrative. They want control of it and it is no coincidence that it is happening right at the time when Sympathy for Palestine is really flooding a social network that is not controlled by the American government. I don't remember his name, but during the House hearings, a member of the House speaker, a member of the House that spoke, words in order, specifically said, we don't have control of TikTok, or the government doesn't have control of TikTok like it does other social media platforms. Like, he literally said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
So
the bill also apparently opens the door, so it's easier to do this to another platform. Like,
right.
they keep telling us, no, it's just TikTok, it's just foreign government. Oh, it's like, well, suddenly the definition of foreign enemy government owned thing is going to become very expansive, because there's some write out where, like, to basically try to write out Yelp. It's like, this cannot be applied to the apps that review food and entertainment. Look, it's like, okay, who got their lobbyist in here?
Right,
to make
exactly. and that's sort of the whole thing too. It's like, and then you could be punished personally for using a VPN to access something that they say you're not allowed to access.
Just like that country we keep criticizing.
Yeah, that is literally state-controlled media. That is what that is. And so it's also no coincidence that right at the time that this is happening, that the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is the ACP, is also suddenly running out of money, and not really scheduled on anybody's real debate about doing anything about. So what that means is, if you've never heard of it, we talked a little bit about it in the previous episode, but if you've never heard of this, it is the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP for short, is a way that you get a discount through the government. And it may have very well been a bellwether or means testing situation, because just like with I can't think of the word, universal basic income test, they just test it over and over and over again, like over and over, and it always comes out the same goddamn way. Money helps people live. Money make happy. That is the thing about how things work in life. I love to eat and live in house. End of line. And they just keep testing it and testing it and testing it, but nothing ever comes of it. So we probably have run the course of another situation where that has happened, but it's no coincidence that it's happening right now, because I'll throw a couple of stats out at you here. The ACP program is currently serving over 23 million households, or about 1 in 6 households, which save between $30 and $75 on their internet bill. And that's according to whitehouse.gov, because they were very pat themselves on the back for this, because this kind of came out of the Build Back Better scenario. So that was the whole idea of like, oh, let's make sure people got internet, because you can't live without internet these days. You can't school without internet. You can't work without internet. You can't
do it.
I mean, you can, but it's like you basically live in the dark ages with the have and have not. So FCC data shows that nearly half of the recipient households that benefited from this program had no internet prior to receiving the credit. So it's it's not just like you think, who doesn't have the internet? And it's not just about, it's not in my area. We're past that. You can get internet on the goddamn moon. It's over. Like we're
lazy people internet.
Yeah, work. Right. Like, so you kind of think about like people who don't have internet. It's not like when you were a kid and like people were like, oh, I don't have cable. No, this is a totally different thing. You could have functioned without television. You cannot function in this world meaningfully or to your own benefit without some kind of good internet connection.
You can't apply for a job. Like the fact that you can't apply for jobs without internet, like boom, that's it. Because like anything else you do, you cannot walk
into a place and get a job anymore. Maybe there's, you might be able to like say, could I wash dishes here? And that might work. But for the most part, you cannot apply for jobs. And of course, like, okay, so that means, what's that mean? That means that I got to go to the library to apply for jobs. That means I got to walk there because I don't have a car. That means I can't afford the bus. That means I got to try to figure out how to make money for lunch while I'm out all day long. And that there's no guarantee I will get any of these jobs. If you go to apply for jobs, you can literally apply for, depending on your field, like hundreds of jobs in one day. It expects no movement on any of that because so many other people are doing the same. So with this in mind, it is not a coincidence that they want to take away the most affected people, like the most disenfranchised people's connection to the world on an election year where the president is extremely unpopular for his behavior. So this leaves these people beholden only to mainstream media. They cannot see something like our show or anything else on RBN or in Hardlands Medias or anything like that. That is now no longer available to them. They are let's say that they also don't have any kind of cable or streaming. So that leaves them like the basic 4-6 channels, mainstream media. So they are not able to make differentiating decisions, but they are forced to still participate in society in ways that are so difficult that most of us couldn't fathom. Think about a day that your internet went down when they were working on it in your neighborhood or whatever, and you just couldn't fucking function. You couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like you're just absolutely stuck. So that's not a coincidence that is happening. And because it is absolutely vital to our way of life. And this is especially important to people who are disabled, poor, in rural locations who need this connection to the world. You need to have an internet connection to be able to order food or order supplies in certain cases. Like if you are a homebound person, you have to be able to, you can't just call up your grocery store and be like, can you make me a delivery? No, you got to go on their app. You got to use this. You got to use that. Like these services just don't exist in the world without internet. So the most vulnerable people, unsurprisingly, are going to be affected by this. And you can even tie this in a little bit to this. It's basically nonsense. I mean, we like the idea of it, but it's sort of Bernie just trying to win back favor with his bill that he recently promoted about the 32-hour work week, which is very piecemeal. But the idea of it was never going to go anywhere anyways. But you can equate these two things because also work, let's say just regular like white collar work that relies on internet either in a location or remotely, like you don't have to work the kind of hours that you may have had to work years ago when you literally were like maybe constructing something physically. Like we are not required. We don't, we've had these technological breaks that have made things easier. So working these extra hours is doing no good. And having internet is part of that. So what you're really saying is that people who can't afford internet should be even bigger wage slaves and serve the empire more in their bodies and their minds more than the people who can afford internet. So
this is where I end up with a lot of I don't want to say made peace. I've made peace with a lot of conspiracy type thinking, because what you look at is, you could interpret what you're describing as like, oh, see, it's an intentional act by the government to keep everyone dumb. Like, they don't want people informed. They know that this is a certain lifeline, and the more control they have over it, they can squeeze off. It's not just your information supply. It's like you're describing. It's essential for most acts of your life. Most people pay their rent on the internet. They pay their utility bills. And like, everything is online. It's a utility just like electricity at this point, and needs to be treated as such. So is it a conspiratorial, like, is there an evil board of wizards that sits and says, what's the evilest thing we can do to try and mess with these people? Or is it a system of, I'm a materialist. Hey, goes along with the Marxism. I look at the material effects of like what these kinds of policies have, and if the material effects happen to be to funnel power upward, like talking about October 7th. The material effect was that it gave cover to do the operation they wanted to do anyway. Is it necessarily horribly important whether or not there was a secret council of evil wizards making these decisions, or that we have created a system where the rules and incentives of such lead us towards decisions and policies like this? Like, free market dynamics would have produced this kind of thing anyway. The whole internet is obviously not free and is very expensive, and you have to pay for that because we, the market, have decided that supply and demand, like the demand is very high for internet because we've made it a completely essential thing. So, hey, look at that, we can raise prices. Like, is this coming from the market, or is it coming from the evil imperialist council that wants to ruin the world?
You know, I'm sort of actually partial to the imperial council idea because of the fact that, like, you know, the internet providers are corporations, and yes, they are government contractors, but they are the ones who decide that they can raise prices, that they can throttle your internet, that they can favor one area over another. That if you're going to get an internet upgrade where it went, you know, like where a lot of places went up to the fiber thing and 5G, like where they're going to start are the most affluent, wealthiest places that are going to generate the most capital, or where they're going to start. But that is what we kind of are saying when we're talking about what the nationalization debate. Okay, what's nationalization? Nationalization is where, you know, a government, the government's like, hey, you guys suck real bad, and we're gonna, you know, acquire the majority of stake of your company, and then then we have it. But then you look at that, and you're like, we can't give our government that kind of power. We should just have that shit, but we can't give that to them. Like, we should have social media companies that should be subject to this. Healthcare should be subject to this. All utilities, internet included, energy should be subjected to this. Transportation, it should all be in the national trust. But we know that we cannot trust these ghouls to do the right thing by anyone. Then, because what would happen is, and we've talked about this in different measures before, where we were talking about, oh, well, the government is buying out some medical debt. Well, now they own the medical debt. Now they're the guys that are going to shake you down for money. You know, you can't trust that the government, local, national, anywhere, is going to actually do what they're supposed to do, because the system is so designed for corruption and for just the raking in of resources by the people who are involved in it, not like the normal proletariat people whose work and energy goes into supporting these systems. So there are a couple of good. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. It just means that it needs to be done in a way that makes sense, and that other countries don't do this. Because recently, just I think yesterday, it was reported that so Belize, the country of Belize, made this referendum that they will no longer allow gas and oil drilling off their shores, or any kind of implementation therein. They literally are going up against these mega powerful corporations in gigantic countries like America, and saying that no, we're not going to allow you to do this, because we don't want you to do this unless we decide you're going to do this. So who's the we? Their corrupt government? No, it is decided by national referendum. Wow, it can be done. Oh my God. Oh my, what a revelation. That's totally possible that you could actually do that. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier. That kind of activity inspires voting and inspires people to get into the political process. Like, I don't give a shit if you send me a survey every single day asking, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Because I don't care if it's not going to cut into my time. You know, I want to have a say in what happens where things go. I don't want my government controlling the internet, even though I want them to take it from the corporations. I want to decide, that's where your vote matters. When they say every vote matters, that's the kind of thing where it does. And again, it's a whole new snowball situation of like, well, they cooked the books, they falsified the numbers, they faked this, they faked that. Well, cross that bridge when you get there, because this is a really big idea that encompasses a lot of things. We, the people, should be in charge of a lot more than we are right now, that literally influences and affects our lives. We should be making the decisions about things like this, about where internet, do we have access to internet? We should not be paying any money whatsoever, nobody. And everybody, it should never be throttled. That should not be legal. These kind of things. And then doing that also serves the antitrust sort of situation, where it can prevent monopolies and companies from getting too big and just owning everything and exploiting everything. Everybody should have access to food, clean water, which we don't. Neither one of those things. Internet is now that. Nobody should ever have their heat cut off in the winter, or their, anything like this. There are these certain things that are just coming to pass that need to really be addressed. And why don't I take a breath and let you comment on this?
So we're coming to the end of our hour, but yeah, I would love to see. And remember, whenever I talk about any kind of government control, I don't mean our current bourgeois government, because clearly, if you give control, like we have in Phoenix, we have Valley Metro, which runs our public transportation system, but it is a private company that only gets money when they're building. So again, is it a conspiracy? Is it not a conspiracy? Does it matter? Because the end result is they build shit that breaks down so they can fix it again and get paid to do so. They never finish anything. I'm sure a lot of you were sitting there like, yeah, that's just like in my city. It's just kind of how it is. Why? Because the people who run that private company, I haven't checked, but I'd be very willing to bet that they're either friends with the current or past mayor, or somebody had some in with some government guy who was like, let me give my cousin this contract, and then boom, Valley Metro forever.
That is literally how it works.
They just funnel money to this rando private company that supposedly exists for the public benefit. I want the public to be kind of running things. I would love if there was like town by town, like municipality by municipality. This is our internet. We exist to provide internet to people, not as a for-profit, kind of like how we talk about running healthcare. If you run healthcare for profit, you're effed from the beginning. You cannot play with that rule set, with that set of incentives. Nothing that is necessary for human life can be run that way. It only ever leads to negative consequences. And the people, if we, the collective people who make the thing, also got to collectively make decisions about how the thing should operate, none of us would vote to swim in our own shit. None of us would vote to drink poison. None of us would vote to have horrible internet that costs $100 a month and just doesn't work. Right. Comcast.
Exactly. No. That's 100% true. And then you look at this and you say, well, okay, it's too big. We can't do it. It's not possible. Okay, you have devil's advocate talk from the nihilistic point of view here. Yes, it can be done. And it is being done right now. If you've ever heard of the dividend in Alaska, of the Alaskan pipeline, their resources, and maybe it's not the best situation, but it does kind of work. Their resources, they have rich resources of oil and gas, and they are being, it is in the national trust mind that the people should get a portion of that money.
This is what Russia does, by the way. That's how Russia runs their economy. They take their oil and they use it to fund their shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a huge provider of that kind of stuff. So that's how they, have a more communistic approach to what they get. Of course, there's going to be corruption. Of course, the laws are going to get written to favor those at the top. But you got to start somewhere. And internet may be one of the things that, if we're going to fight about healthcare forever, like, internet is one of those things that I think that we could just easily agree. Everybody needs it. You can't function in this world without it. We're never going to go backwards to a time where you can. And that's where we kind of come for now with this ACP program ending, and how destructive it's really going to be.
We used to pay per minute for the internet. We can easily make these changes because
it used to be that way. I don't know if you remember, but back when cell phones, not like when cell phones first started, like in the late 80s, but like when cell phones were commercially available to people, let's say in the middle to late 90s, you paid per minute. You paid, that's how you paid. And then these companies would advertise, you get free nights and weekends. you can talk as much as you want on free nights and weekends, but otherwise you're going to have to pay on the surge. Like you literally pay per minute. That's how we calculate your bill. And then if you get like if somebody called you, it costs you money if you answered your phone. and there was no like caller ID on it or anything like that. So if somebody
like,
dialed you, like you're like, you just cost me 50 cents, fucker. Thanks a lot.
To answer.
And it was the same with text messaging. People can't even imagine this nowadays, but you used to pay per text message. That was a thing too. So they're always going to figure out a way to fuck you. And if we don't think about like,
you can change in a positive way or a negative way. Like
that's exactly right. So this is something that I hope that we were able to kind of put in your mind if you hadn't really thought about. We don't obviously have any solutions for ACP. If you want to go the route of trying to call your reps, I'm not going to tell you don't. But,
go apply, get some ACP before it goes away forever.
Yeah, if you can, they may have closed it, but you might get it because it's going to run out in like April, is what they're saying. There's been a little bit of mealy talk about making it happen. I think in the State of the Union address, Biden was like internet or something, between stupid other ramblings. But I guess we've come to the end of the hour here, and we really want to thank you guys for being with us. We will circle back on all of these things as they develop. So we appreciate you. We're glad to be here with you, and that you put up with our very fast talking at you. We really, really love that. We will see you again next week at the same time, same place.
Yeah, what's going on? Like triple the audience we usually have. What's happening? Like is all
of
YouTube
I'm loving
down?
That. So yeah. Thank you for everyone new. We love it when you comment. You don't have to feel compelled to put yourself out there, but we love it when you comment. We love it that you're being here. Remember to do the whole like, share, subscribe thing because. It looks like that's helping people being able to see it more. And if this was helpful to you and you like other people to have it explained to them, then
like, did somebody tell you Rome was going to be on today?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. No, not
The Rock will be joining us today.
Yeah, maybe someday. But we do want to thank you. We appreciate you so much. And again, you can always reach us at our socials. Here is our handles, and tell us about ideas you want us to talk about or maybe questions to address. And at this time, I am going to shut my mouth and turn things over to our own resident musician, Mr. Jared, and he is going to play us some lovely tunes. So thank you all, and I will see you next week.
Gonna turn on my reverb. Hey, as usual, I have my single request, which is if my audio sounds really bad, tell me at the beginning of the song and not at the end, because then I have to live a life of regret. Thank you for being here. My name is Jared. It says that right under me. I don't have to say anything. This is a really, really old song I did before I learned how to play guitar a little better, and I was like, being good at guitar means playing really, really fast, right? Got a guy named Jimmy, lives behind my right eye, starts yelling high water every time I start to cry. Yeah, I can't get nothing done when old Jimmy starts to wail. Tripping on the time, just a mutter to my eye, and then I start to fail. Crack my head, and let the people out. Crack my head, and let the people out. Crack my head, and let the people out. Well, oh, let them out of me. This Christine hangs out in my top teeth, sits all day counting, making sure it's the same beneath. No, I can't stop clicking, enamel starts to melt. Pain is raining high, brings the water to my eye, and Jimmy here starts to yell. Crack my head, and let the people out. Crack my head, and let the people out. Crack my head, and let the people out. Well, oh, let them out of me. I can't take it all in stride. They just keep slipping on my pride. Finally making sense to me. Take it all one slow down, pretty baby, cause it won't go to the top of me. No, crack my head and let the people out. Crack my head and let the people out. Crack my head and let the people out. Well, oh, let them out of me. There's this other guy, he lives in my left ear. Always tells me where to go and sometimes what to fear. Yeah, he gets talking about the fire and the brimstone. I tell him, Billy, go back to sleep. There ain't no way that you could ever know. Come on out, crack my head, and let the people out. Crack my head, and let the people out. Crack my head, and let the people out. Oh, yeah. Oh, let them out of me. I think I was blowing the mic out, but that's fine. It's okay. Crack my head and let the people out. All right, good night, everybody.